Well, hello. I'm glad you could join us today. Today we're going to do a painting that I hope will make you happy, make you feel good. We're going to do a sunset, with a purple and orange sky. It's a view that I get to see every day from my job. I work security at a titanium factory, so we're going to leave the titanium factory out of it. In fact, we might change the foreground a lot. Maybe try putting a cabin in or something. What I'm doing right now is applying a thin coat of the liquid white. What this does is just a really thin white paint, and it makes the canvas slick and allows you to blend colors on the canvas and move colors around really easily. These little streaks you're seeing right now are from some paint that was still left in the brush from the last time I painted. I didn't get it all cleaned out good, but it's not going to matter. We're just going to cover all of it up. No big deal. Alright, now that we got that on there, we're going to clean out our brush just by rubbing it across our screen inside our coffee can. We got a little paint thinner in there. Our last episode was the first episode where I did all the camera switching myself. And we're going to be doing that this time too. We got a little control board over here, so if you see me looking down and fiddling with something, it's that. It went pretty well last time. I messed up a couple of times, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it, and it'll make it a lot easier to produce these shows. Alright, we're going to go down to the palette and get a little bit of yellow, maybe a little bit of Indian yellow mixed with the cad yellow. We're just going to go right here in the middle of the canvas and just put a splotch of color. Just a big circle. Make it look like we're just scribbling in the middle. Look at that. I'm just sitting here talking about it, and I do it as soon as we start. But I am starting to get the hang of it, so we'll get this. All right, here in the middle, we just put a big splotch of yellow. We're just using egg-shaped strokes. And let's see, I'll go ahead and put a little bit more color in there. Next, I'm going to go down to my palette again. Get a little bit of red. Mix it in with that yellow, maybe a little yellow ochre. That's a golden color, and that'll make it kind of a bright orange, and that's what we're going for. All right, we're going to come back up here, and just right along the edge of that, just put some orange in. And we might get a little of the yellow up in the sky too. And we're just going to come around, put some on the bottom too. Looks like we're making a big yellow eye here. Alright, and outside the orange we got, I'm going to put some straight red, just bright red. Back down to our palette here. Just straight bright red, maybe add a touch of crimson to it. That's going to be a bright color for sure. Alright, we're going to go back up in here, around the corners, put more of the crimson. And mix with the red. And the reason I'm doing all of this is because, we're going to end up doing some reflections in the water down here. I think we are anyway. I haven't really decided yet, but if we don't, we're going to cover it up anyway, so we're not too concerned with it. Just want to get a little color down here. All right, and I think we'll go back down to palette here. Get a little bit of blue. Maybe mix it with a little bit of the crimson. A lot more of the crimson than the blue. Mix it up till we get the color we want. Kind of want a deep purple. There, that looks very nice. Alright, so we're going to go back up and just in the corners around the edges, we'll start out by putting some of that purple in. Looks a little more blue now that I got it up there, but we're just going to go with it. I like it. I hope you like it too. Alright, and same thing on the bottom, just a little bit of purple coming across. Blend it in. You know, this stuff gets lighter because it mixes with the liquid white as we're doing this. Maybe a little bit more around the edges. Alright, now we just got a big mess all up here. A lot of pretty colors in the sky. So next I'm gonna clean out the brush and just beat the excess center off. Maybe wipe it on a napkin after that. Alright, now that we got a clean dry brush, I'm going to wipe it off on a napkin again and make sure it is clean because we don't want to bring our green paint thinner into the painting. The reason my paint thinner is green is because that's the color it turns out when I've washed a lot of paint in it. But you don't have to throw away your paint thinner after every painting. You can do 2 or 3 with it and then just let it sit there and the paint will settle towards the bottom. So then you can just pour the thinner that you have off the top and you waste very little of it that way. Okay, so we're going to start just blending outwards from the middle. We don't want to come back and mix in a lot of color with our yellow, so we're going to start going out. And you can see that's starting to blend together. And as you can see, it's already starting to blend in and look like a sky. We'll just come back and forth across that. We don't want to get our purple into our yellow or else it's going to turn out looking kind of green because of blue that's in it. And so we're getting this middle done first and just head it outward. Blend all the way across. Okay, once we get up here, when we start blending it, we're going to try to get it to have a really soft border here so you can't tell where one color begins and the other ends. But this is very important here. You don't want to go back into the middle with this blue paint or you're gonna make your sky look kind of strange. Nothing wrong with that though. Remember one time in the first season we did an alien landscape. That looked weird for sure. Green sky, weird clouds in it. Alright, we'll just come across like we did at the top. It's extra important down at the bottom that you come straight across because this is going to be your water and you want it to kind of have watery looking lines in it. If you don't do this, it's going to look like your water is going to run off the side of the painting. Up in the sky, it's okay to have some little egg shapes and things like that. Alright, now that we got that done, I'm going to come back down to the palette And I've got get some of that purple that I've been using. Just get it on the brush. I'm just going to start right in the middle and just like this. Just put some purple on here. We're not too worried about it right now. We just want a basic shape. I see these little mountain foothills off in the distance, and they look really pretty in front of the sun. So maybe a little bit more of the blue color. All right. Now that we got the basic top shape in, we can go ahead and just pull some of this down. And you can just create separate hills. I want that little purple one to be the one that's furthest away, so I'll leave it alone. And I'll just start pulling in the direction I think these would go. Kind of laying out the mountains. These are really far off in the distance, so they're going to look very, very light. And see, here I'm blending these out so it looks like we got a little, I don't know, maybe a lake or something out there. And this is that green color I was talking about you would get in your sky if you don't make sure you blend outward. So that's a good opportunity to show you that. And we're just going to kind of reflect that like it would go into the water. Most of this is going to be covered up, so it's not a big deal. All right. And see, we're going to fade back down here to our palette. And I think next I want something a little bit darker, but I don't want it too dark. So I'm going to take some of that blue, Van Dyke brown, maybe a little green. Go back up and just put some little places right here where we got a little hill that's maybe a little closer than the other, so it's going to be slightly darker. As things get closer to you, closer towards the horizon, they're going to be darker. And you know, when you're coming forward in your painting and you've got things that are around the bottom right here, they're also going to be darker than the things up here. So as a general rule, just think, you know, as things get closer to you, they get darker. Of course, when you're dealing with things like the sky reflecting, it's always going to be darker on the outside and lighter towards the horizon. It's way off in the distance. And we're going to take our clean 2-inch brush and we're just going to lightly pull. And where we've made that little mist at, you're going to be able to see it going along the hills here. So we're just going to tap the bottom of these that we just put in to make it a little bit lighter. Okay, and we're going to go back, and this time we're going to make that same color, but we're going to mix a little more of the brown and blue in with it. And we're going to come back along, leave a little space here. It's very important to you. You want to be able to see the little mist that you created in the background. And here I'm just tapping just like I did before. Let the bristles, the bristles of the brush bend a little bit. You can see how just going like that, bending downward, it's creating those shapes. And just make this however you think that hill should go. And maybe a little bit more of that down at the bottom. And this isn't very important right now. It's still very far off in the distance. Alright, we're going to take that, pull up on it. Again, it will look like little trees really far off in the distance. You know, sometimes you can even pull a little harder here, make these look a little taller in places. That's okay. You decide how the hill goes in your world. Maybe over here, a lot taller. A little bit in the center there. This is your world. You can make these however you want to. Alright, I'm going to step back for a second. This is something very important to do while you're painting, is just step back and take a look at what you've got. You know, when you're up here working, it can sometimes be a little hard to see what you've got when you're up close and see how everything looks together. So just take a step back every now and then while you're painting, and you know, ask what needs to be done. All right. I think what I want to do next is put a little dark, really dark paint right here. Maybe make it look like a layer of bushes, something like that. All right, and I'm going to go back down to our palette here and mix together some green, Van Dyke brown, a little blue, just to make a very dark color. We're just mixing it on the brush, back and forth, and just load it up with paint, a lot of paint. Okay, we're gonna go back up, and maybe right here we got a big tree that lives in our world. I'm just gonna bring it down just like that. Maybe another one right here. A little group of trees. I think they call that a stand of trees. That's what we're making, a stand of trees. Maybe fill in some of these holes here. And if you feel like it's not dark enough, you can go in and mix in a little more of your brown color. As you can see from my job, I've got a very nice view. Very nice. And make that a little bit darker. Okay, I'm going to put another tree on this side. We could just spend all day doing trees. They're one of the funnest things to paint. They're not my favorite. My favorite to do is mountains, but these trees look nice. And maybe one right here comes up and covers up part of this mountain we got. That's a nice one. Maybe one beside it. It's a little bit smaller. Maybe one right here. Have a whole family of trees. Yeah, these have the sun behind them and they're very far off in the distance, so we're not going to be putting much detail in here. These are going to remain very dark. You know, if we keep going, we will have that whole forest of trees I was talking about. That would be just fine with me. Alright, and coming down. You know, a painting like this give you a lot of practice making these trees. And another big one here. And, you know, maybe I'm going to take some of that same color on my 2-inch brush, go down and show you how we're doing that. We just do the brush the same way. We're going to pull it in one direction, and it's going to end up bending like that. And maybe we'll make one right here. Maybe this one's not an evergreen tree. Maybe it's a big bushy tree. Still way off in the distance. You know, we painted so many trees that we almost can't see that mountain in the background. But that's usually what happens. If there's trees up front, you don't end up seeing the mountain. Alright, next I'm going to go into a little of my paint thinner and liquid white. And I'm going to get a little bit of brown, mix it in with it. Let's see, something like that. Just make it very dark. We're going to spin the brush around so it gets lots of paint on it. Just really load it up. Alright, we're going to start down at the bottom of this and just kind of come up and make branches wherever you think they would go. It thicker at the bottom than we have it at the top. So just wherever you want them to go, you paint them in. This is your world. And that right there, that's your tree. All right. Another one right here. You know, it helps to just go outside sometimes and just look at trees. Look at how they're shaped. And it'll help you come up with ways you want to make your trees. Alright. Now, I'm going to go back down to my palette and get a bit of yellow, maybe some of that orange. Maybe this is in the fall. I'm just going to start putting leads on that tree. Maybe a little more yellow, more orange. Need more paint on the brush. Just load it up. And maybe even a little bit more. Okay, we're just going to load that up with paint and gonna start painting some leaves on this tree. And we don't want to cover all the dark area up that we made. But we definitely want to make sure this this nice orange color shows up really bright against everything else. All right. Now we've almost got the highlights on this tree done. It's still pretty far off in the distance, so We're not worried about a whole lot of detail, but doing a little bit, maybe something to cover up the bottom of it. A little bush there. All right. Now, I think the next thing we're going to do is maybe highlight some of these big trees we got. So take a little bit of yellow. You know, you don't have to highlight it with colors that you see in nature. You could even put orange in there if it looks good with your painting. Like bright orange, neon orange. Okay, and we're just going to go back up here, and just like we always do, we're just going to use the corner of our brush and kind of choose where our light's coming from. Since it's behind it, you know, you're going to have a few different angles of light, so we're not too worried about it this time. Maybe a bit right here. And we'll highlight this one. Just highlight all of them. And that one. We're going to come down and do all these like this. And if you do one, you got to do them all. If you just have one like that, they're going to look a little bit strange. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. You can change the color up a little bit. You know, what I tend to do is if I have a sunset, I try to put the highlight on the side the sun is on mostly. So, you know, maybe on this side of the painting, you'll put the highlights over here, and then maybe on the other side, you'll put the highlights over there. All right, got that one highlighted. And that one. And you know, I think maybe we need one more tree over here coming off the side. So we'll just drop them in real quick. And that easy, we made another tree. All right, throw a little more highlight color down on that side. And a little bit on this tree. And you want these to remain darker towards the bottom, but wherever you feel like light would hit, go ahead and put a little bit of extra highlight on it. That's okay. Just whatever you think. Okay, we're going to go back down to the palette and maybe get a little bit of yellow, some more of this orange color, and we're just going to come along in here and put some indications of bushes. We already have a dark undercolor, so we don't have to worry a lot about that. We can just think about the shapes of the bushes. Still getting used to my camera switching. All right, just putting some highlights on the bushes back here. We're doing these one at a time. All right, now I'm going to take a clean 2-inch brush, and I'm going to just pull down the bottom of these, make some reflections. Maybe we'll put a little color on there. Pull down some color. And if we don't like where we pulled it down at, we can always come back and correct it. But just for now, let's put some extra color on there again. And pull down the basic shape. Like if you see something on top, like a tree here, maybe go ahead and deflect it down into the water. It doesn't have to be perfect. It won't be perfect probably if you're like me. I'm sure you all can paint better than I can. I'm just here to show you how. A bit more color. And again, so I had to put a lot in here because I didn't pull it down earlier when I was putting the dark in, which is normally when I do it, but it's good to change things up, and you learn from things like that. In fact, I think this might be a little bit better way because I'm getting a better basic shape of the trees reflecting. And let's see this. Pull it down some more. You just want to make sure you pull these basically straight down, because if they're going at an angle, they're going to look a little strange to you. And of course, like always, if it looks good to you, then it is right. It's good. Leave it that way. Alright, we're just going to lightly come across. We don't want to destroy this, just a couple of hairs. Make it look watery. And you know, you can create some of the little things at the top of the trees if you want to try to reflect those. I'm just taking a brush and just wiggling it back and forth lightly. Alright, now that we're done with that, I'm going to go back down to the palette again. And I'm going to lay back in some of that dark color. Because we pull a lot of it down. And I'm going to put some of that back in. And let's see, we got, can I go back and get a little bit more? Go back up to our canvas. And where we did that, we have the opportunity to put in another row of bushes. And these are a little bit closer to us, so we'll want to get more color, make them a little bit brighter. And we'll make sure we leave a little bit of the dark areas that we got, because those are very important. You know, this new switching system we got is very nice, because, you know, if I mess up, I've got no one to blame but myself. But it's also very bad, because if I mess up, I've got nobody to blame but myself. Yeah, but it is nice having that kind of control over it. Alright. Next we're going to get a little bit of brown and just put in some land along here. Just going to start right here, because I think part of this back here is going to be covered up, because I'm going to put in some other things like trees and maybe even a little cabin. We'll see if we have time for that when we get to it. I'm not too good at cabins, so that's always an adventure. If you remember the last time I did one, that was crazy. And let's see a little bit more here. And now maybe we'll mix in some white and maybe a little brown, and gonna just put on a highlight. Oh, a little blue on there. I'm not sure where that came from, but I like that. Looks good. Ah, I see. I got it on the edge of the knife. You know, sometimes my mistakes turn out to be my favorite part of a painting. Blue looks good because the color's in the sky. And what we're doing here is just making it look like little rocks and things coming down. All right. And now we're going to go back down to the palette. And I'm going to get some blue, green, brown. We're just going to put some land area in right here. Going to go right over them. Maybe a little more of the brown. And you can even mix some blue in if you wanted. That might look nice with this as part of the shadows. So dark blue in there. Just as long as we keep this rather dark. Alright, and since we got this whole new land area right here, I think we're going to put some trees. I'm actually out of my brown, so I'm going to get out a little bit more. I keep it here under the table just for times like this. I used to keep it on the other side of the room, and then if I ever messed up, I'd have to call in our producer here at the station, Arla, and be like, hey, can you bring it in for me? But if I keep it under the table, that's not going to happen. Alright. So, since we got some new land here, need some new trees to go on it. Let's just start up here and just cover up some of these trees that we've already did. A lot of color. If you have trouble getting your paint to stick because of all the paint underneath already, you can just thin it out with some paint thinner, and that should do it. Let's see, maybe a little bit taller. Couple more branches higher up. And there we go. Fill in a little more of the area around it. And we're going to come back and highlight that with some of those orange colors that we have been using. You want a few more highlights when it gets closer to you in the painting. Maybe make it a little bit brighter, because as you get closer you have more detail. Maybe it looks like you got some little things hanging down. Maybe bend the brush down slightly. And just a few more. All right. And we're going to go back down to the palette. We got some highlight colors and start highlighting some of the bushes. We don't want this to be very bright because the sun's going down, but we still want to make sure that we put some indications of color out there. You know, we want to paint these one bush at a time. Make sure we leave some dark areas in here, like in between these two. We'll leave a little dark there, maybe a little down here. And here we got a little area here where it comes up over the water. And put in some dark color if you like. Some bushes hanging up over the rest. And then we'll come back and highlight those. You know, this bush here, I think he should be a nice bright red bush. A little zinger right there. It's a very pretty bush. These little details that make your painting look impressive. It's this kind of stuff that makes people want to buy paintings. Not that you're interested in money, but you know, if you were, that's what's going to sell it. Alright, and as I was saying earlier, I think that in this painting we might make a little cabin. So we're going to come up here and we're going to scrape out a basic shape and decide how we want it. So let's see, if I want a cabin maybe right here. Just gonna come scrape out the top of it. Just scrape the paint completely off the canvas. Alright. And as you do that, you can just wipe off your palette knife. Maybe right here. And right there. And so basically we can see almost the shape of the cabin before we even get started painting it. And further down, maybe this cabin has a little shed on the other side of it. Alright, and we're gonna just take some brown and just scrape it in there. Make the roof of our cabin. And it's okay if some of these little scrape marks show through. That's just going to add texture to it. Alright, we're going to take a little bit more. Maybe make this little front side of it. Alright, and we're going to make the side of the cabin just coming straight down. And it doesn't have to come down how we've already cut it out. We can change that. We're not committed to anything. In fact, even at this point, if I decided I don't like the cabin, I can just scrape it off and put it back in. that cabin's looking like it's seen better days. Alright, and then we're just going to take some crimson, mix a little brown, more of the crimson though, and we're just going to come down this cabin like maybe it's got little shingles, little planks going across the roof. And since this side of the cabin is in shadows, we want to keep it very dark. But the other side, we could put some little boards and things like that. Just highlight them across. Just put them in. Maybe on this side we want a few, but just not as dark. All right. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And clean up that porch we were working on, a little shed on the side. And maybe right here we're going to scrape out a little door. Put some dark paint right there. Maybe a window right here. All right. We're just going to come along and just scrape off the part of the cabin that we don't want, where it meets the dirt. If I didn't like this part here, like that shed, we'll just scrape that shed off. And just like that, we've gotten rid of the edge of it. So now I'm going to take some dark paint and come back along the sides. Maybe make it look like there's some bushes growing up around it. Maybe some from the back. Make it really soft right here. Just paint in some little things go around. We're going to highlight them. And we'll highlight those the same as we highlighted the other bushes. Just a little orange, yellow, red, yellow ochre, things like that. And this guy apparently never cuts back the yard around his cabin. He kind of does like I do when I have a house with grass. Just let it grow up until people start yelling at me about it, then I go cut it. All right. Now next we're gonna make a little path that goes through here. Maybe we'll take a little blue, Van Dyke brown, and we'll just kind of start out here, side to side. Just put a little path in. Just back and forth, just scrape it in there. We could even use the fan brush. In fact, I think that might be a little bit easier for what we're doing. Just back and forth. Back and forth, wherever you think the path would go. Get it smaller as it goes back. Just rock the brush back and forth, making that path. And then we'll come back over that with another brush with some white, maybe some yellow mixed together. Let's see, go down to our palette here. White, yellow. We're just gonna make some basic highlights on that, but just adds a little more color in there. Like maybe a road used to be there. All right, and we're gonna put some more bushes coming up along the side. and we're gonna put in the last detail. So here I'm gonna come scratch in some sticks and things like we've done a few other times before. This just gives an indication of little sticks and twigs. Things maybe some trees way off in the distance. And we'll take some of that same color we made to put the little path in here that was grown over, and maybe make some little indications of a trunk in some of these trees. These are very far away, so we don't want a whole lot, just a little bit, show something's going on back there. Maybe a little bit in that one, maybe some in that one. Most of these would be too far away to really see, so just little taps, little indications. And let's see, I'm gonna get a little bit of the highlight color that we were using on the trees and just kind of put some highlights around these so those don't look like they're just floating out there. They look like they're part of the tree. It'd be strange if our trunks looked like they were floating on top of the tree. And I'm gonna put a few more places where we got sticks and things in here, because I just feel like you'd see a lot of that. I don't want to put too much, scratch it to death, but it is nice to have some of these. All right, and with that, I think we're going to call this a finished painting. I'm glad that you could join us today, and we hope that you'll be back next time. On the next episode, I think we might try to do a seascape. I'm not completely sure yet. I have to decide when I get home tonight, but I just want to thank you for watching, and thank you for all of your support. We'll see you next time.